You know, the Dwarfs have been uncomfortably greenskin-like since Thorek Ironbrow made landfall. Maybe the algae are a better comparison. They're popping off Waz and Dragon Horns left, right, and center, and that global melee attack and fear from Thorek has made their infantry feel pretty punchy, which they'll need as the forces of chaos stir. The dark fires of the Northern Wastes approach, as the Tzeentch Dragon looks to burninate the countryside and burninate the peasants with unholy infernos. The Chaos Army is controlled by DBD Papa Palpatine, and like his decrepit namesake, he's feeling like it's time to unleash unlimited power. Fire Sorcerer mounted on a Chaos Dragon with Flamestorm, Cascading Fire Cloak, and Fireball for a nice mix of spells that can break down boxes and keep range units moving. Its breath attack is beastly as well, in my opinion one of the best in the game, good versus single entities, and even better at demolishing blocks of infantry. And he brought the Blasted Standard, granting missile block chance in an AoE, which should help quite a bit if crossbows or thunderers open up while the creature flies overhead. Quite glad to see this baby in action. I feel like I don't see Chaos Dragons too often nowadays, which is a shame because it's a super cool unit. Down below, not what I would call a typical anti-dwarf rush. He skipped the chariots completely, opting instead for a lot of infantry. Axe and Shield chosen, 3 Chaos Warriors with great weapons, Marauders, and Forsaken on the flanks, which are quite adept for flanking and running down enemy range troops while still having the punching power to fight regular dwarf shield walls. Combine that with 2 Manticores and a few Skirmish Cav, and that is the Chaos build. One in which the Dragon will have to do quite a lot of the heavy lifting, I feel like. But yeah, it's certainly got some punching power for sure. On the other side, march the armies of our resident dwarf expert RTK Eumaeus, with 2 Thanes and Thorek Ironbrow in the vanguard. One Thane has the Silverhorn of Vengeance for a bit more charge bonus on the way in. The other one is completely naked, and the Master Rune Lord of Karak-Azul has quickly risen to become the best Dwarf Lord, in my opinion, mostly because of the simple utility he brings to the battlefield. Rune of Speed will make the Goon Squad hit more often, and the Rune of Breaking will allow any of his units to sunder armor, which is quite useful against the heavy plate of Chaos, but the real strength of Thorek is in his Rune of Doom, which causes fear map-wide, and makes Longbeards hit more like Black Orcs, and it's only a 2-minute cooldown. It doesn't last super long, only 16 seconds, but it typically has an uptime of at least a minute per battle, and plus 24 melee attack for an entire army for a full minute is quite impactful for a spell that takes 0 micro. Helps the dwarfs a lot, at least in the matchups where there will be lots of melee fighting, and that will certainly be the case here. The rest of the build is nothing too crazy. It's what I'd call an aggressive melee box with Longbeards, Ekron's Miners, Dragonback Slayers, and 3 Quarrelers. You might be wondering, why crossbows instead of thunderers against a high armor faction like Chaos? Well, they're a lot cheaper, which means you can bring a bigger army, and the Rune of Breaking lets them hit well above their weight class by sundering armor, so focus fire from them can actually wreck Chaos Warriors pretty bad, or wreck a Chaos Lord on a dragon. But as the battle gets underway, Fire Sorcerer and his pet lizard moving out to the flank, lining up for a fireball, and magic missiles like this can be kind of underrated tools for dealing some early damage. Shoot in from the side, let the magic missile penetrate down the length of an enemy battle line, and it can kill 15 or 20 models no problem. Nice start for the Sorcerer. I think that killed 13 models there for sure. Very nice. And I do want to point out, actually, that this is a somewhat risky build for the Dawi, because without the Rune of Slowness, Thunderers or Trollhammers, Gorby's Chariots or even Chaos Chariots could have had a field day here. With that said, doesn't have to worry about it because there are no Chariots, and Rune of Breaking just went down on the Quarrelers, and that means those Chaos Warriors with great weapons will have sundered armor down to 70, and watch as that HP bar plummets from the focus fire of 3 crossbow units. Another fireball arcing its way in, definitely dodged by RTK Eumaeus. Still going to kill a few models there, but he turned the flank to make sure it didn't go down the length of his battle line, and the Silverhorn of Vengeance pop for that plus 12 charge bonus will get Longbeards up to 30 CB on the way in. Chaos Dragon with a dark fire of chaos into the Quarrelers in the rear, and an entire regiment of them just evaporated, disintegrated, disappeared from the battlefield forever in a torrent of flame and guts. Longbeards holding out in the front ranks, and they should do well here, especially once that Rune of Doom is popped for the plus 24 melee attack. That has not gone down yet. You want to make sure you have most of your army engaged when you decide to cast that global ability, just to ensure you get maximum value out of it. Quarrelers already routing off after that nasty breath attack Ekron's Miners getting a fantastic blasting charge into the flank of the Chaos Warriors with great weapons who were just completely shish kebabbed on the way in. That unit is gone already. 850 gold down the drain for Chaos, and the focus fire from those Quarrelers was really something special with that Rune of Breaking enacted on them. Chaos Lord doesn't really want to go down into melee anytime soon. He's content to sit back and cast those Dark Fires, cast some spells, doesn't want to get caught up with a Rune of Doom tied down by all that mass and beaten on by 2 Thanes, and doesn't want to dive into the rear because there are Slayers there. And meanwhile, the Goon Squad for the Dwarfs, well, they're content to slice their way through hordes of Chaos Elite. The Master Rune Lord has struck his anvil, every dwarf unit on the map now causing fear, now almost doubling some of their melee attack values, and Chaos will quickly learn that Thorek can hit pretty damn hard, and so can Thanes. Headbutts and decapitating strikes for the Warriors of the Dark Gods so far. The Dwarf Hero Squad is styling on them, and they may very well be the most difficult element of this build for Papa Palpatine to counter. But he's got Flamestorms going off in the Dawi back line, trying to clear out some Longbeards and destroy some of this heavily armored infantry. Forsaken being quite smart, deciding to disengage and look for a better opportunity to get into the rear and get into those Quarrelers in the background. Chaos Warriors with Cascading Fire Cloak on the left flank for Chaos, and the Dragon deciding not to engage, even though I think a rear charge there would have been just fine. Yeah, well, he had a better opportunity, I guess. Another gorgeous Dark Fire of Chaos. That is 2 fantastic breath attacks, and that will put the Chaos Dragon up over 100 kills in only a couple minutes. Meanwhile, the Manticores saying hello in and amongst the Dawi phalanx. They'll cause some carnage there for sure, and it looks like Chaos has done what it set out to do up to this point. Forsaken harrying the rear, using their mobility to scoot around those Dragonback Slayers and cause some problems back there. Another fireball into the flank of the Longbeards, and the Manticores are still healthy. The Chaos Dragon still relatively healthy, although it's taken some damage, probably from some Quarrelers when it got a little bit too close. Missile parry helps, but it only has 70 armor base anyway, so it can take some damage from focus fire. But the Thane and Thorek Ironbrow are kicking some serious ass in and amongst the Chaos Warriors and Chosen. Now, these Forsaken could be a linchpin of the Chaos build if they're able to get through Longbeards with great weapons. Not really the unit they want to fight against, but some of them have already dropped very low because of those breath attacks from the Chaos Dragon. So if the Forsaken can break them, get into those Quarrelers alongside the Marauder Horsemen who are charging in now, and look like they will get a clean charge off, then the backside of RTKU Mias's build will start breaking down, and that will allow him to collapse in, get that full surround off, and maybe finish off Thorek Ironbrow and the Thanes for good. Warriors of Chaos do need to be very careful though. Dragonback Slayers making their way backwards to deal with all these large troops in the rear. Chaos Dragon and Marauder Horsemen taking flight in the face of all that red-haired fury, and the Manticores taking flight as well, wheeling and dealing, waiting for an opportunity to strike at the Thanes. Those will be your 3 units, the Chaos Dragon and the 2 Manticores that have a hope of beating the Dawi Goon Squad. Or, hell, you kill everything else off and surround them and you're probably in pretty good shape there. But the Manticores have not committed yet. Chaos Dragon deciding to deal with the rest of these troops in the rear, and even though the Longbeards are immune to psychology, they're still being torn asunder by a 5-ton Chaos Dragon, and now they're just being bullied. I mean, that's just mean, dude. Tzeentch twin-headed goodness for sure, and those Longbeards will rout quite soon. Meanwhile, Thorek and his 2 homies are having a field day beating down on some Chosen. That's a lot of value for sure. You're going to get a lot of value out of Thorek Ironbrow and the Thanes when you're going up against such heavily armored infantry, and Thorek, if he's given himself the Rune of Speed for that 24 melee attack, well, he can get through the melee defense and armor of Chosen no problem at all. Another Dark Fire of Chaos raining down from above, this time on the Dragonback Slayers, systematically eliminating all of their anti-large troops, and now there are almost no Slayers, and that could be a huge issue for the Dawi as Rune of Doom goes down for the 2nd time. Manticores and the Chaos Dragon all teaming up, and this is his opportunity to strike. He still has the Chosen alive, surrounding the Hero Goon Squad. Might as well go in and attack, but remember that Rune of Doom was just popped. And Thorek Ironbrow is a tanky boy on his anvil, so we'll see how this goes. Chaos Dragon, not necessarily known for being incredibly tanky, kind of has lowish or middling melee defense at best, and Thorek and the Tzeentch have not missed an attack. The Chaos Dragon just melted. That was insane. Rune of Speed helped out a lot there. So did the Rune of Doom for at least a couple of seconds at the tail end. But the Manticores and the Chaos Dragon got their asses beat in seconds flat by Thorek and the double Thane squad. And that was incredibly impressive from the Dawi. They were pretty isolated there. The Chosen had a full surround off. Manticore striking from both sides. Chaos Dragon coming in as well. That's a ton of weapon strength going your way. And they had bodies there too. But Hero Hammer coming in strong for the Dawi. They held the line for long enough to allow what remained of the Dragonback Slayers and the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass to come in from the rear. And that was all she wrote. Balance Bar swung heavily in the favor of the Dwarfs, and as soon as that Chaos Lord routed, so did the rest of the Chaos Army, and I'm not sure they'll be able to crawl their way back into this one. I mean, he's got slivers of HP left on that Chaos Sorcerer. Chaos Dragon might not even make it back into melee before Army Loss kicks in, and that was very impressive from Thorek, man. Rune of Speed and Rune of Doom combined just meant that he didn't miss any attacks when the Chaos Dragon came in to fight. And Papa Palpatine, who I think took a pretty good engagement there at the right moment. Part of that was just RNG rolls, honestly, but part of it was also just really smart play from Emias to activate the abilities he needed to make sure he traded well in that duel. I was quite impressed with the Chaos Dragon play in that game. Got 159 kills on his Chaos Lord, had some nice spell casts, more importantly had impeccable timing and positioning on his Dark Fire of Chaos breath attack. He got 3 amazing breath attacks off, and that was where the majority of his kills came from. And for the most part, Chaos Dragon was where it was supposed to be at each and every important moment of that battle. He just got destroyed when he went in for the hero duel, which sometimes that's what happens. I think he made the right call to go in when he did with the Manticores Chosen and the Chaos Dragon surrounding the heroes, but they just held their line so well, and Thorek got 2,300 damage value because of that Rune of Doom. Landed 3, 4, maybe 5 attacks on the Chaos Sorcerer Lord when it decided to land, and that was just the difference in the battle. Rune of Speed, Rune of Doom, giving himself melee attack. When you already have AP majority, that's a problem. He also has a pretty big HP pool too, so he could tank the damage from the Dragons and Manticores while the Thanes helped him turn the tide. I don't know if he went for the overcast version of Rune of Speed or just gave Thorek it. Either way, it was enough to just completely spank that Dragon's ass, and from there, it was a nightmare for Chaos to complete mass rout. I think some Chariots probably would have been pretty useful in this matchup, and they're usually pretty good against Dwarfs, but probably didn't want to go super meta just because Chaos versus Dwarfs can be a little bit lopsided sometimes, but overall, really fun battle. Hope you guys enjoyed it.